Uh, Hello, friends. So, in our last series of lectures, we have done elementary part of the complex number. तो आज complex number को ही हम आगे बढ़ाना शुरू करते हैं. So, we are going to start with the quadratic equation. So, quadratic equation. So, I am going to write down the simplest quadratic equation, जो basic equation है. Let's start from that one. ax square plus bx plus c is equals to 0. Now, फर्स्ट लेट मी टेल यू द फंडामेंटल थ्योरम ऑफ अलजेब्रा. आपके पास कोई भी लीनियर इक्वेशन हो सकता है, कोई भी क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन हो सकता है, क्यूबिक इक्वेशन हो सकता है, तो वी विल फोकस ऑन द रूट्स ऑफ दैट इक्वेशन. कि क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन है तो हाउ मेनी रूट्स इट विल हैव, क्यूबिक इक्वेशन है तो कितने रूट होगा, और लीनियर इक्वेशन है तो कितना रूट होगा. तो कोई भी इक्वेशन हो मतलब एटलीस्ट उसका वन रूट तो होगा ही होगा, लेकिन डिपेंडिंग ऑन द पावर कि आपका इक्वेशन है किस ऑर्डर का है, मतलब है ना. तो ऑर्डर विल बी डिसाइड कि इक्वेशन में जो भी वेरिएबल है उसका मैक्सिमम पावर कितना है. जैसे आपके पास यहाँ पे है x का मैक्सिमम पावर है दिस. सो इफ इन इक्वेशन वेरिएबल हैव मैक्सिमम पावर 2, देन यू विल से दैट दिस इज क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन. अगर आपका पावर 1 ही होता है वेरिएबल का, जैसे दिस इक्वेशन, यू से दिस इज लीनियर इक्वेशन. एंड अगर ऐसा हो, मान लो कि ax क्यूब प्लस bx स्क्वायर प्लस cx प्लस d इज इक्वल टू 0. इस केस में देखोगे कि यहाँ पे वेरिएबल का मैक्सिमम पावर कितना है, 3 है. सो दिस इक्वेशन विल हैव 3 रूट्स, और इस इक्वेशन का एक ही सॉल्यूशन होगा, और दैट इज वन रूट, यू कैन से. और यहाँ पे इस इक्वेशन के होंगे 2 रूट्स. कॉम्प्लेक्स नंबर में आपके मेनली है क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन, तो वी विल फोकस ऑन द क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन. आपने क्लास 9th में भी पढ़ लिया होगा कि क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन को सोल्व कैसे करते हैं. सबसे पहले हम इक्वेशन को देखेंगे कि यहाँ पे वेरिएबल क्या है और कांस्टेंट क्या है. सो यहाँ पे x है, दैट इज वेरिएबल. ओके, इट कैन टेक एनी वैल्यू इन, सो वी शुड सेटिस्फाई दिस इक्वेशन विद द कांस्टेंट पैरामीटर a b c. तो अगर अभी देखो यहाँ पे a है, b है एंड c है. दीज थ्री आर द कांस्टेंट. नाउ we have to first focus on कि equation के roots है, will they be real, they can be real or it can be the complex. So how will we find out? अगर कोई भी equation है quadratic equation especially, so we calculate this quantity d, which is simply is given by b square minus 4ac. Okay, and you can say that d is equals to square root of b square minus 4ac. Now, depending on the sign of d, we say that what type of root this quadratic equation will have. So let's say d, there are three possibilities that d can have. D can be equals to 0, d can be greater than 0, or d can be less than 0. If d is equals to 0, then you will say that b square minus 4ac, or you can write down here d square if you want. No, let's say d. So it will be equals to 0. If greater than 0, then it will be greater than 0, or less than 0 sense is. These are the three cases. Okay. Now, if first case is there, then you will say both root of the equation will be equal. So let's take simplest case, x plus 4x plus 4. Calculate the value of d for this equation. It will simply, so if we compare from the fundamental equation or the basic equation of the quadratic equation. So here a is equals to 1 because the a is the coefficient of x square, b is coefficient of x, and c is the constant. So in this equation, coefficient of x is 4 and constant is also 4. So what was d? D was equals to b square minus 4ac. So it will give you 4 square minus 4 into 1, the square root, which is equals to 16 minus 16, that is equals to, it means root of the equation, roots of equation are equal. Okay, now what are the roots? How So roots calculation करने there are different method, but for the quadratic equation you can directly write down if you have this quadratic equation ax square plus bx plus c is equals to 0. So I have told you कि इसका maximum power 2 है, तो there can be maximum 2 solution. So solution will be x is written as minus b plus minus, that is minus 4ac divided by 2a. So once you will take plus sign and again you will take negative sign, then you will have 2. Or in other word, you can write down x is equals to minus b plus minus. So this b square minus 4ac is simply equals to d square. So it will be d divided by 2a. Now from here you can write down this solution of this root of this equation. So you have calculated the d. Now put the value of d, you will get the solution. So minus b was 4 divided by 2 into a was 1 plus minus 0. So you can see that only one solution you can have, like x is equals to minus 4 by 2, that is 2. Right. Now the equation is quadratic, but you are getting only one solution, then you will see that here only there are two value possible. So for quadratic equation you will have two solution, both are equal, because I have said if d is equals to, then roots are equal. Okay, so this was the first condition for the quadratic equation, where d is equals to 0 and you have same equal solution, or so roots are the same. Now we will start with the second. So in the complex number, how we can write down the complex root? So you can say that you have a equation x square plus 2 is equals to 0. Now you can say that this x square is simply equals to minus 2. Now if you want to calculate d here, then what will you get? So in for the complex root, d should be less than 0. Let's check for this equation. So the equation, quadratic equation, is equals to this one. D is written as d square minus 4ac square root. In this equation there is no linear x term, so coefficient of x will be simply 0. It means b is equals to 0, a is equals to 1 and c is equals to 2. Let's put the all these value in this. D b square is 0 square minus 4 times a is 1 and c is 2, so it will give you minus 8. Now you can say that inside this square root, there if there is a negative number, then you can't take the square root of that number. But when we started the chapter complex number, तो मैंने बताया था अगर आपको नेगेटिव वैल्यू का स्क्वायर रूट है तो you can replace this minus sign by the 8 into iota square. Now you can easily take the square root of this number, which is 2 root 2 iota. सो अगर आपके पास में d आपका कॉम्प्लेक्स मिलता है आपको, इफ d स्क्वायर लेस देन 0, then the roots will be negative. Okay, so roots are imaginary. Sorry, that is third condition. Now in this case, for this equation, what are the roots? So simply again you will write down the roots in term of x equals to minus b plus minus iota d in this case divided by 2a. Okay, so here root are equals to x minus b is 0 simply, then plus minus iota, what is d here? You can say d is 2 root 2 uh, and then divided by 2a. So if you will see here, the value of x is simply, if you cancel out, is plus minus root 2 iota. Okay, so these are the root for the equation of this given equation. Now sorry, if you want, if you have taken the iota square here already, then you will not put it iota here, and if you only putting in term of this sign, then you can think of that one. So what are the point, the main point is where I wanted to tell you here ki, so now you have to focus here the sign and the iota why we when we are putting it. So let's say d, we got the less than 0. Now here d was sorry, here for this case it was minus 8. Now if you are writing down the value of d here, that will be simply minus b plus minus, let's say, minus of 8. Now once you can put the magnitude and then this replace this minus iota by square. Okay, that one you can do. So if you replace it, that, let's say I am writing it down there, iota square. Okay, and here simply this iota square, and now you have only 8 here. So write it down there this way, or maybe let me write down the next page because it's quite confusing for. So the equation was simply x square plus 2y is equals to 0. So let's say x square is equals to minus 2. Then directly you can write it down, x square equals to 2, minus sign can be replaced by the iota square, and then x will be simply equals to square root of 2 into iota with the plus minus sign. This is the direct method to solve it. The second was the ax square plus bx plus c, that is equals to 0, and d we calculate by the b square minus 4ac. Now here d we got, that was minus of 8, this one. Okay, now what were solution will be equals to 0 plus minus of minus 8 divided by 2. Now x is simply equals to plus minus of square root of, that will be 2 into iota square, that if square taking the square root will give you iota divided by 2. So 2 simply cancel out and x will give you plus minus of square root of 2 into iota. This is the solution. Now we have done the two condition. Now the third case where we got the d greater than 0 and we got the real root of the quadratic equation. So equation simply we can take less x square minus 4x plus 4, which is equals to 0. Now let's calculate the discriminant of this equation, which is simply b square minus 4ac, the square root, and you can also write down this square root in terms of the power of the bracket half. So d is equals to 4 is square 16 minus 4 into 1 into 4. Okay, okay, but again you are getting here d equals to 0, so you will have the same root, so we have to write down the another equation. Let's say x square minus x plus 6. Okay, now what is the value of d here? That is simply 1 square minus again it will, let's say, write down plus 1. So it's 1 square minus 4 into 1 into 6. That's again the d less than 0. You cannot have real root. So maybe we have to write down an equation which gives the real root. No? So this is the equation which will give you real root, x square plus 5x plus 6. So it's b square, simply you can say 5 square minus 4 into a into 6, the square root, which is d, and then d will give you 25 minus 24 the square, which is simply 1. Okay, now you have got this d greater than 0, so you will have the real root of this quadratic equation. Now what are the real root? Again you can simply use that formula, which is simply is x equals to minus b plus minus square root of uh, b square minus 4ac divided by 2a, on another word minus b plus minus d divided by 2a. So you have everything here. You have value of b is 5, you have b square minus 4ac, that is 1, and then you have a equals to 1. So from here you can directly write down minus 5 plus minus value of d is 1 divided by 2, and a is 1. So once you take the plus sign, then you will get minus 5 plus 1, that will give you minus 4 by 2. That will, so first root you will have minus 2. In another, if you have here minus 1, then you have minus 5 and minus 1, that will give you minus 6, which is divided by 2 will give you minus 3. So now these are the real root for the quadratic equation. Now we will focus mainly on the complex part of this quadratic equation. So let's start with the equation where we get the complex root of the equation. So x square plus x plus 1 is equals to 0. Now again what type of root this equation will have, हम calculate किससे करेंगे, by calculating the value of d. So it is simply square root of b square minus 4ac, which is b का वैल्यू यहाँ पे 1 है, so 1 का स्क्वायर माइनस 4 into a again 1 है and c का वैल्यू 1. Now you clearly can see here value of d is 1 minus 4, which is equals to square root of minus 3. Now this is complex number, so directly you can write down d will be equals to root 3 of iota. Now solution will be for this equation equals to minus b plus minus of d divided by 2a. So x is equals to, what is the value of b? The coefficient of linear variable, which is x here. So it is 1. So with this negative sign, it will be minus 1. Then plus minus value of d is, you have simply root 3 iota divided by 2, and value of a is 1. So you have two root, which is, let's say x1 is equals to minus 1. Once take this plus sign, you will have 1 plus root 3 iota by 2. And second root is simply minus 1 minus root 3 iota by 2. Okay. Now let's say another example, which is very important. So we have this equation in term of the numerator and denominator raised to power m, which is 1. So the question is, what is the least value of the m for which this equation holds? And now हमने जब स्टार्ट किया था चैप्टर, देन आई हैव टोल्ड यू हाउ टू मल्टीप्लाई टू कॉम्प्लेक्स नंबर, उनका डिवाइड कैसे करना है. सो बिफोर calculating the value of m, we have to solve this bracket. So I am going to solve it. Let's say we want to first finish this denominator. So how can we solve? So we will multiply the complex conjugate of the denominator, which is simply 1 plus iota. And now I am just writing down equation as it is. अभी हम देखेंगे कि यहाँ पे जो डिनोमिनेटर में है, दैट इज आइडेंटिटी व्हिच यू हैव यूज्ड ऑल इन योर क्लासेस, व्हिच इज simply a square minus b square simply equals to a plus b and a minus b. That's the same thing. So a is 1 square minus b is iota, so that's iota square, which will give you 1 minus iota square is minus 1 again, that's equals to 2. So in denominator you got the 2. Now let's talk about the numerator. So numerator is again identity, which is simply 1 plus iota ka whole square, which is 1 plus iota square plus 2 time of iota. So iota square is 1, sorry, minus 1, then it will give you this quantity. So it is equals to 2 iota raised to power m, which is equals to 1. Now 2 is cancel out, and the basic equation or the basic relation or normal relation you got between iota a raised to power m into 1. Now there are multiple value of m for this equation will hold. So let's say we will say that number should be the natural number. It should not be 0, because any number which have power 0 will give you 1. So we can't take with the value of m equals to 0. Now let's just start with the m equals to 1. So it will give you iota. M equals to 2 will give us minus 1. M equals to 3 will give us iota square into iota, that will be minus iota. And that again next is iota raised to power 4, that is iota square raised to power square, which is minus 1 raised to power 2, that will be plus 1. So the first value of m we got here, that is 4. But there are multiple value which will give you this plus 1 sign. Again you can go this way, 5, 6 and 7. You will not have this one, and then when you will reach at the m, which is simply equals to 8, then you will again have the 1. So value of m in the multiple of 4, let's say n start from 1 and goes to infinity. For these value, this equation will give you equals to 1. Now the least value for this one will be n equals to 1 and m will be equals to 4, for which this equation give you the 1 value. Okay, for today I think this is sufficient, and this chapter is complete. Now we will focus on the problem related to this chapter, which has come in the IIT, JEE and advanced. Okay, so see you in the next class.